Hey guys, it's Ben the Coin Geek at Old Pueblo Coin, and I'm super excited to take out this book and show you guys a little bit of something on how to grade Barber quarters. So, for those of you who haven't had a chance to, of course, always consider picking up one of these official A&A grading standard guidebooks. I like the old ones with the line drawings. And without further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some coins, and we're going to go ahead and also take our time to, this is read you a bedtime story. All right, not really, but here we're going to go. We're going to start looking at some of the Barber quarters, and one of the things to consider whenever you're looking at grading coins is, you just have this continuation of wear from detail to detail to detail. So you're always either adding or subtracting. So I'm going from the bottom up here. So you're going to slowly start to see details get added back in on these coins as we go. Alright, so your typical AG coin for the Barber series, usually what you'll end up having, of course, is just not a lot of detail of any kind, and you'll have the rims will be worn down, into the devices a little bit, and a lot of the lettering is gone. Barber quarters are notorious, along with lots of other Barber coins, for having these wear patterns where you see more detail on the front or the obverse and the reverse when it comes to the low grade coins, like they really started to wear down and in. But we can move on into more of just a good condition coin where you want to have the rim should be almost completely full to completely full, but it can run into the lettering a little bit on a good, especially on the reverse. According to the grading book, the rims can be worn into the top of the feathers here. So you're looking at this area when you're talking about the rim and the top of the feathers, right over there where that rim is just hitting the top of the feathers. You don't need a full rim to get a good, but I've got another one to show to you that has just a little bit more detail to it, so you can get a feel for kind of the different levels of good. And I want to point out here a little bit about the things that start to show up next. From here you see a full outline of the face, the head, and but there's no details in that area really much at all. You've got a little bit of the ear there, a little bit of the wreath, and that's about it. So we're going to stay with the goods and show you one that's just a little bit stronger as far as the overall appearance goes. Touch more detail in the center of the head area, and then on the back we got a little bit more solid where you get a little bit of separation between the rim and the feathers, the eagle's wings. But everything is just really flat. The entire eagle's design, there's just big flat spots everywhere you go on that. So usually it's easy to kind of get into looking at those and seeing coins that are going to be in the good range. And then you start to get just a little bit more detail. And once you get into the VG, what they're talking about in the book is that the entire head is weak, and most of the details of the face are worn smooth. They say that 3 letters in Liberty are clear, rim is complete. So rim is complete, of course, that means that you don't have any of the details running into the rim here. The rim is very strong on this piece, and this is a real nice coin. This actually, I jumped into the VGs instead of, oh wait, that's what we're doing. Well, somebody needs a little more coffee this morning. Here we go. And I want to point out the comment about the Liberty Complete. And you can see we've actually made a really big jump and from the good to the VG here, because look at all the detail on the eye and the lips and all of the feathers. So this might be a little bit higher end VG because of all this detail up in here. But the book mentions 3 letters in Liberty. Now Liberty is way up here on the top of the cap, and so you can make out more than 3 letters in that guy. It's hard to see with the naked eye here, of course, but the letters are really small up in there. Okay, but that's kind of the area we're going to be looking at. Of course, VGs can be an 8 or a 10, so you get a little variation in there. And then on the reverse, it says that the eagle shows only a small amount of detail, and that the arrows in leaves are flat. Most of the shield is very weak, and part of the eye is visible. So let's take a closer look at that. Of course, you can see the eye. Actually, you've got a good amount of detail in there. This coin actually is probably pushing really close to fine as far as those go. But I've got another one here that we called a fine to show you just kind of how much change there is. And so you go from a real flat surface to starting to get a little bit more detail every step of the way. Now on the fine, they say that the obverse shows some details in the hair, the cap, and the facial features. And all the letters of liberty are weak but visible. The upper row of leaves is outlined, but the bottom row is worn nearly smooth. Rim is full and bold. So here we go. What you'll start to see here is this one is actually pretty comparable to the last coin. There's a little bit stronger detail in the leaves on this coin, and the ear itself has a lot more detail popping up in there. You'll see the mouth has a lot more detail to it than the previous coin. You kind of got that Mona Lisa smile going on there, huh? And on the reverse, half of the feathers are plainly visible. Wear spots show in the center of neck motto. Arrows and arrows. Horizontal shield lines emerge. Vertical lines are separated. Letters in the legend are worn but clear. So also this coin is going to be pretty comparable to the last. What we're looking for is the shift in amount of detail that you start seeing in the eagle, especially in those wings. And here you'll see, like I said, the coins, these two coins are fairly comparable as far as all the detail goes. I think that this one has just a hair more detail on it when it comes to the eagle. But once again, like most of these grading, grading tutorials, just bear in mind the main points of what we're trying to get at, which is you start to see details added in over time, and also the thing that's very interesting about almost all of these is just the way that each coin wears a little bit differently. Because to me, there's a lot of the details are the same on the two coins, but once again, I want you to focus just a little bit on the amount of detail in the mouth and the eyes here, and to me, you see a little bit more detail in the coin on the left. The jawline starts to pop out a little bit, things of that nature. We've got another one here that someone else had called a fine. We'll just take a quick look at this guy and say that I think this one is pushing a higher grade fine. Now some of this is tricky because sometimes what you're running into, of course, is the way the coin is toned, so to speak. So for example, this coin has that nice little bit of dirt in the background that gives it a totally cool looking offset. So you can really see the detail when you get that dirt in the background. It causes a whole lot more detail to be apparent. But more so than the last coin, you can see there is more detail in the eagle's wings, and especially those bottom tail feathers on this coin. So this one, I don't know that we get to a VF on this coin here. VF says that over half the detail still shows in the leaves, hair and ribbon worn but bold. Every letter in Liberty is visible. Half the details still show in the leaves. So let's look at the leaves here. Okay, well we've really got all the leaves there. I mean, I'd say that's well over half of the leaves. Liberty, I can see all of the letters up in Liberty. And you start to notice little details that get added back in. For example, in front of the ear, there's a curl of hair that starts to pop up that was almost unnoticeable previously. And then also at the back of the base of the hair with Liberty cap and the leaves meet, there's also some hair that pops up in here and here. And also that jawline starts to become more pronounced. And once again, you start to see this line here that boldens up from the face. So this coin may make a low-end VF based on what we're reading here. This is the Vf20 Criteria. The reverse, the shield is worn, but most details are visible. Half the details in the feathers are clear. Wings and legs show wear spots, motto is clear. So we want to get to about half of the feathers, and I think we're getting pretty close on that. We're getting pretty close to half the feathers. This is one of those ones where if you send it in, it could come back that Vf20 or that fine 15. But a really nice coin. If it does come back a VF, I like to tell people the rarest coin ever in U.S. history, a VF Barber quarter. Now, you would think that actually the extra fine is the rarest because of all the coins that I had with me today to be able to show to you. I did not have an actual extra fine. So we're going to look at this coin next. That's once again very comparable to the previous coin. You can see those that curl in the hair. You can see all the detail in the leaves that have come back in, the jawline. So this coin is very, very comparable to the previous one. And this one appears to have even more feathers on the reverse than the previous coin. And once again, the interesting thing is just to see how very differently these coins all wear. So I'm going to grab another one that is once again very comparable, but just see if there's anything that pops out on there that you notice that looks a little bit different from coin to coin, or if they're all kind of the same. Maybe they're all just a nice VF type coin, and you know, trying to get just a little more detail into that shield and into the ribbon, the E pluribus unum. The eagle's head also is an area we haven't really concentrated on, but also, you know, that starts to get more detail over time. You know, if you look at one of the lower grade coins and then you start jumping up a little bit, a higher grade, you start seeing a few more feathers in there. So, but some of these areas of the coin have a real high design to them, so you really don't see details get added back in until you get to a higher and higher grade. All right, a couple more coins to show to you here. Interestingly enough, this 96 also kind of comparable. I was trying to find a nice extra fine coin to show, but I couldn't. So we have an abundance of VFs, and then we jump to a coin that is going to be borderline. I wanted to find more of a high-end VF35 into an XF40. This coin, the previous owner had called it an AU, and it's an interesting coin, and we'll look at some of the detail that's popped back into it. Depending on how someone would look at this, you might call it an extra fine 45, but I'll get to the details in the book in a second. One of the things that's interesting about this coin is that, you know, when Barber quarters are in low grade, the reverse is almost always worn down more than the obverse. So you see coins in an album and you'll have a full good face, full rim, and then on the reverse you'll see the lettering worn down into the rim. But once you get into higher grades where you have coins that have luster to them, because of these big open fields here, that starts to get wear on it and breaks the luster a lot faster than the back of the coin, where you have all of these design and devices that are protecting the field where the luster is. So you see a coin like this and you'll see just a lot of luster on it, and you'll think you know, it's a really high grade, you know, because that luster is over most of the surface of the coin still. And then you go to the front and you're like, okay, well there's a lot of wear on that coin. Look at all the wear coming off the Liberty cap. And what's cool is this almost has wear patterns you could look at, like someone almost colored the coin for you, so you can see at this angle all that white spot, like that's where the coin was starting to wear down over the cheekbone and over the Liberty cap and on top of the leaves. But you can see just how much more detail there is into the leaves and the hair at the top. There's the tuft of hair at the top above the eyebrow, and the Liberty cap itself starts to get more detail. So one of the things is on most of the other coins, there's none of this detail is here for this Liberty cap, because that whole area turns to be flat. This top part turns to be flat. Instead of having that little like divot there, you know, it ends up being really flat. So on, I'm going to read the extra fine definition, extra fine 45. Slight wear shows on the high points and upper leaves, cheek, and hair above the forehead. Liberty is sharp and band edges are bold. Okay. So on the reverse, it says that the high points of the neck, the wings, and the talons, lightly worn. Lines in the center of the tail feathers are clearly defined. Lines in the center of the tail feathers are clearly defined. Okay. So those are those lines down there at the tail feathers. We haven't talked a lot about that because that's one of the areas that gets the details in last. You know, but we talk about the details on the shield, and you'll see that how high that point really is, because even on this coin, those shields oftentimes don't have a ton of definition to them. They're not necessarily going to be struck really well on those coins. Part of the mint luster is still present. You know, to get an XF45, you've got to have mint luster. If there's no mint luster, you're probably off a grade. You know, the AU50, traces of wear show on the cheek, tips of leaves, and hair below Liberty. And the reverse, traces of wear show on the neck, tails, and tips of wings. Half the mint luster is still present. So now the book is telling you, hey, you need half of the mint luster to get there. So when you look at this coin, would you say if this is 3/4 mint luster on the back and 1/4 mint luster on the front that you're at half mint luster? Maybe. Maybe. I do think that this would come back AU50 based on a lot of the coins that I've seen graded. But, you know, it's really interesting to see just that amount of, when you can actually see the wear on the coin, you tend to start getting really close to pushing that lower AU to a higher XF. Anytime you can really see wear and, you know, lack luster, really lacking luster, that's when you start to knock it down a grade. So you have to use a little bit of imagination to get from these VFs to our XF here, but overall, I hope that helps you guys understand some of the higher points on grading Barber quarters. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Ben the Coin Geek. You can subscribe by clicking on the owl button in the corner and watch more videos on the right side of the screen. Thanks.